right, let's do this. Hey there, and welcome back to episode 14 of the Post Production Podcast. Today, we're diving deep into something I know many of you struggle with daily, and that's staying productive when your home is also your office. You know that feeling, right? You sit down at your desk, coffee in hand, ready to tackle that project with laser focus. Then suddenly, you notice the pile of laundry in the corner, your neighborhood WhatsApp group is going bonkers, your phone lights up with Instagram notifications. And is that? Yes, your cat has just knocked over something in the kitchen. 3 hours later, you've managed about 45 minutes of actual work and you're wondering where your morning went. If that sounds familiar, you are in the right place. Because today, I'm sharing 10 practical, judgment-free strategies that have transformed my own work from home productivity. Let me share a quick story with you. When COVID-19 was declared a global health emergency on March 11th, 2020, I was at home still recovering from a concussion that I'd had in January. Recovery was going slow as expected. However, I was feeling really isolated, so my healthcare team decided that for the sake of my mental health, I should return to the office for half days. That was supposed to happen on March 16, but the universe had other plans. On Friday, March 13, public servants, and indeed most of the world, were asked to bring their laptops with them and be prepared to work from home the following Monday. And there went my pathway to better mental health. And as some of you might be aware, screens aren't exactly where you want to be when you're recovering from a concussion. Fortunately, I had the privilege of working beside the team who were hard at work developing Canada's national concussion strategy. So I was going back to work in an environment where I felt extremely well understood and supported. So Monday arrives and it's a total gong show. No one had ever had the need to host online meetings before, and we didn't have an inter-office messaging system set up because until this point, all informal conversations happened by walking over to see the person we needed to talk to. One of my first tasks back on the job was trying to figure out how we were going to communicate with each other and have meetings. Remember, up until then, the only time meetings were hosted online was for large information sessions and webinars, and only select people like executives had licenses to hold those meetings. Do you remember 2020? It feels like a blur now, right? Since then, we've normalized platforms like Zoom and Teams, but on March 16, 2020, we were feverishly trying to figure out how our teams could communicate and work efficiently from home. We've certainly come a long way in the space of efficiency working from home because the pandemic provided us with the opportunity to modernize, even revolutionize the way we do business. From simple work chats to continuing education, the opportunities for enrichment from home in these areas has not stopped growing. Thanks to COVID-19, entire organizations were given the chance to prove that they didn't need to rent sprawling commercial spaces to bring their people together for work. Thanks to the normalization of efficient digital workspaces like Microsoft Teams, they were able to modernize their working arrangements by letting go of their real property and instead investing in sound distance working practices and systems to ensure that their employees were set up for success. My employer did the same. We were eventually invited back to the office for half an hour to collect and bring home everything from our office to help us work comfortably. Our chairs, our desks, monitors, you name it. Eventually, we all got corporate licenses for Teams, and we were set up for success as far as having the necessary tools to do our work. But what about the tools to actually get stuff done? What happens when suddenly you need to motivate yourself to work through the noise of toddlers running and screaming up and down the hall? What about the load of laundry in the corner that's been bothering you since yesterday? How do you train yourself to ignore your home environment in order to have a productive workday? I spent that first year of the pandemic like many of you, trying everything from strict schedules to complete flexibility, from working in bed to setting up elaborate home working spaces. Some approaches failed spectacularly, and others changed my work life forever. Today, I'm sharing some of the strategies that I put in place during the pandemic to ensure that I was having productive work days while not losing my mind thinking about the hungry mouths to feed or the full rubbish bin that people just kept piling more and more onto instead of taking out. What I love about these strategies is that they're not a one-size-fits-all. They're flexible tools you can adapt to your unique situation, whether you're in a studio apartment with roommates or working from a dedicated home office. So, if you're ready, grab yourself a cup of coffee or your favorite cup of something, and let's begin. Before we begin, I would like to highlight that I lived through the first year of the pandemic with 2 young children at home. Some of you will get me here. This means endless laundry, requests for snacks, shrieking from my eldest daughter because her baby sister was invading her space, more garbage, compost, and recycling to take out, Amazon deliveries at the door, the dog barking because the Amazon guy rang the doorbell instead of leaving the package on the steps, failed attempts at midday naps, Peppa Pig replays blaring from iPads, toddler guest appearances during Teams meetings as if it were the Tonight Show, and the list goes on. I've experienced plenty of home distractions during work hours, and I'm sharing what worked for me. But please take it with a grain of salt, not as gospel. At the end of the day, the systems that you choose to implement have to work for you. I'm a huge proponent of you do you. There's only one you, and there is only one you living through your life circumstances and your responsibilities and commitments. You have to follow your own path with self-compassion and with the confidence that you're doing the best you can with what you have. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, we can jump into it with a clear conscience. Here are my top 10 strategies for productive work-from-home days. Number 1, create yourself a designated work zone. This may be easier said than done. Don't worry, small space dwellers, I've got your back too. During the pandemic, I started off working from my coffee table in my living room while my husband worked across the room from me at our dining room table, which was super chaotic because it was the same space my eldest was doing online school from, and since we were all in that space, that's where my toddler wanted to hang out too. The only chance for true peace we had was our bathroom breaks. And you moms will get this, even bathroom breaks have low probability of not being followed to while answering the toddler edition of 20 questions. Eventually, my husband and I decided, right, we need designated work zones. This meant somewhere that we could be that had a visual cue for everyone in the house. We told the kids, if you see Daddy in this room, we have to be quiet because he's working. Similarly, for us adults, we could think, right, if I'm in this room, this is where I leave all of the outside distractions at the door and I focus on work. For you small space dwellers, it's less about having an office and more about having a visual cue. When I'm in this space, this is when I work. Mind you, our spaces didn't include distractors like TV. So if your situation dictates that your environment has major temptations like Netflix and Xbox, then perhaps a ritual to signal the beginning of your workday will help. Something like, when X or Y happens, we start to work. It could be as simple as, after I've finished doing the breakfast dishes, I transition into my workday. No Netflix allowed. And look, there is no judgment here. I love working with background noise, and I've definitely been known to work through an episode or 6 of Friends. But I'm also honest with myself, and I recognize that I have absolutely zero willpower. So if I find myself getting sucked into watching the episode like I inevitably do, it'll be really hard for me to get back to work and be productive. I encourage you to do the same sort of self-exploration to identify your soft spots so that you can think up strategies to overcome the things that you find hard to resist, like me and my lack of self-control to resist the Monica Richard romance. So, workspace? Check. Number 2. Identify similar tasks and batch them together. When I worked back in Canada, I'll admit to you that I had programmed myself to believe that all emails were urgent. So I'd be in the middle of writing a labor-intensive report when suddenly, you've got mail. So I'd switch screens and respond immediately, forcing me to switch my focus, which often made it hard to come back fully focused to my report. Eventually, I learned to batch similar tasks so that I wasn't waffling from one task to the other constantly. What did that look like? It looked like doing all of my emails and calendar actionables at the same time since both tasks required the use of Outlook. I made sure that all of the tasks that happen in that program get carried out in the same work time. Similarly now, I ensure that to the best of my ability, everything that needs doing in Canva gets done in the same batch time. This means that my Instagram reels, my stories, and carousels, I've all planned them to get done in the same work burst. And then all of my social media content scheduling happens at the same time in the Meta Business Suite. The less you have to switch gears suddenly, the more productive you may be, and your brain will be grateful too. Multitasking can be great and kind of productive, but I'll let you in on a little secret. Speaking as a lifelong professional multitasker, I've found that it can be completely soul draining. And because I know that it's so draining, I try and avoid the kind of multitasking that takes the wind out of my sails. By dedicating more time to one kind of task, we're essentially protecting and maximizing our workflow and focus. When we're not constantly having to recalibrate our focus, we can ensure we get more quality and cohesive output because we're not mentally scattered. Number 3, embrace time blocking based on your energy levels. Now, this strategy completely changed how I structure my workday, and it might just do the same for you too. Time blocking isn't just about scheduling tasks or stuffing your calendar full of actionables, but more so about scheduling the right tasks at the right time based on when your energy and focus naturally peak and dip throughout the day. For instance, I'm more of a morning person. Between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m., my brain is firing on all cylinders. That's when I tackle the work that requires the most creativity and critical thinking. That looks like writing scripts, problem solving, and developing new project concepts. After lunch, I hit what I call the 2 p.m. fog, and that's that time when my energy naturally dips. Rather than fighting with more coffee, though I always do that too, I've learned to schedule different types of tasks during this time. This is when I do more administrative work, like respond to emails or handle less demanding tasks like organizing files or doing simple edits. But here's the critical part, and I alluded to it earlier. Don't fill every moment of your calendar. When I look at my schedule for the day, I want to see white space. Those empty blocks aren't wasted time, but they're buffers that allow for inevitable overruns, unexpected tasks, or moments that just allow me to breathe and reset. And let me emphasize this. Time blocking isn't about working more hours, but more about working smarter during the hours that you've designated for work. Sometimes that means scheduling just 4 hours of deep focused work rather than 8 hours of distracted half work. For freelancers especially, quality almost always trumps quantity. Your clients aren't paying you for hours spent at your desk, they're paying you for the quality of what you produce. So be honest with yourself about when you do your best work and structure your day accordingly. I'm going to share what my typical workday looks like when I've scheduled a full day of work for myself. So from 5:30 a.m. to 7:15 a.m., that's my morning routine. It's when I get up, have a shower, get dressed, make my bed, get the kids ready for school, etc. From 7:15 until 9:30, that is my deep creative work time. That means for me, to the best of my ability, no emails, no phone. From 9:30 to 10, that's my first email check of the day, and I take a quick break. From 10 to 11:30, I'll continue that focused work that I started earlier. 11:30 to 1 o'clock is when I take my lunch and I take the time to reset. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of reading too. From 1 to 2:30 p.m., that is when my administrative tasks happen. It's when I do some research, it's when I return client calls, and I respond to WhatsApp messages. From 2:30 to 3, second email check and light break. From 3 to 4:30, that's my lighter focused work time. This is usually when I tend to do things that ignite my creativity, like design my Instagram posts, let's say. From 4:30 to 5, that's my final email check. I do my planning for the following day, and I get ready to shut down because my family is going to arrive from school and work at any time. Do you notice those breaks that are scattered throughout? I consider those to be essential and not optional. Number 4, give the Pomodoro method a try. Speaking of breaks, let's talk about a method that's been an absolute lifesaver for me on some days where my focus feels scattered, and that's the Pomodoro technique. If you haven't heard of it before, it's really simple. Work intently for 25 minutes, then take a 5-minute break. After 4 cycles, take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes. Rinse and repeat. Now, I'll be honest, when I first heard about this method, I was skeptical. 25 minutes seemed like too short a time to get into a real flow state, and then the constant breaks felt counterintuitive. But during a particularly difficult week where my concentration was kind of shot, I gave it a try. And it made a huge difference. And here's why I think it works so well, especially for those of us who are a little bit more creative or neurodivergent. It creates a sense of urgency without overwhelming you. When I know that I only have 25 minutes to work before a break, my brain develops this superpower to kick into high gear. There's no time for procrastination when the clock is ticking, right? But more importantly, it forces me to be kind to my body and my brain. Those 5-minute breaks are opportunities for me to stand up, to stretch, to rest my eyes, to get some water. These are all the things that we should do, but often forget to do when we're in a deep state of focus for hours on end. I particularly recommend this method for tasks that you've been avoiding. If you tell yourself that you'll just work on it for 25 minutes and then you can stop and take a break, more often than not, once those 25 minutes are up, you might find yourself wanting to continue. There are plenty of Pomodoro timer apps out there, but I honestly just use the timer on my phone. There's no need to overcomplicate things. And remember, this technique isn't one size fits all, right? Some people might prefer to work for longer periods of 45, 50 minutes, and others find that even 25 minutes is a slog, and it's too long for certain tasks. The beauty in this structure is not exact timing, but that you can experiment and find what works for you. Number 5, turn off those notifications. All right, friends, let's talk about one of the biggest productivity killers out there, notifications. I mean, think about it. You're finally in the zone, working on what's been giving you trouble, and then suddenly, someone liked your Instagram post from 3 days ago. And just like that, your focus is shattered. I'm going to make a confession here. During my first year of working from home, I was absolutely terrible at this. My phone would be right next to my laptop, face up, notifications enabled for everything from emails to social media to news alerts. I was essentially inviting distraction into my workspace. Now, I know that some of you are thinking, but what if I miss something important? What if a client needs me urgently? Valid concern. But here's what I think. There's a difference between being accessible and being constantly interrupted. Many of us don't need to be available at the split second someone sends us a message. And honestly, that kind of reactive working style can actually make us less reliable in the long run because we're never truly focused on anything. So here's what I do now and what I recommend. First, identify the truly urgent channels. For me, that's phone calls from my kids' school and direct messages from active clients with same-day deadlines. Everything else can wait. Second, adjust your notification settings accordingly. On my phone, I've set up Do Not Disturb mode with exceptions for those priority contacts I mentioned. On my computer, I've disabled pop-up notifications for email and social media completely. And here's a game changer strategy when it comes to social media. Full disclosure, I haven't brought myself to do this yet, but my husband swears by it for himself. He's removed social media apps from his mobile altogether. If he wants to check Instagram or Facebook, he has to consciously decide to open a web browser to do so, and he'll usually do that during a break. The difference this makes is honestly astounding. Without those little dopamine hits constantly pulling at your attention, you may find yourself being able to sink into deep work in a way that might feel unfamiliar at first. And a bonus tip, let your regular clients know about your communication style. I tell mine that I check emails 3 times a day. Morning, midday, and end of day. And if something is truly urgent, they should call or text. Setting those boundaries actually helps your clients respect your time more, not less. Number 6, create morning and evening rituals. This strategy might seem a little separate from the others, but I found it to be essential for maintaining boundaries between work and home life when they both happen in the same physical space. When you work in an office, you have natural transitions. Your commute, walking into the building, sitting at your desk, these physical changes signal your brain that it's time to shift modes. When you work from home, those transitions don't necessarily exist unless you create them. So I've developed simple rituals that help my brain understand when work begins and when work ends. My morning ritual goes a little something like this. After the kids are off to school, I make a fresh cup of tea, not the one that I gulp down while getting everyone ready. And sometimes I'll light a candle on my desk and spend 5 minutes looking at my task list and setting intentions for the day. This might sound a little woo-woo, but the sensory experience, the smell of the tea and the candle, the physical act of writing down priorities helps me transition into work mode. My evening ritual is equally important. I'll clean off my desk completely, I'll write down my top 3 priorities for the next day, and I'll physically shut my laptop down and put it away. Then, I take George for a short walk around the block. That's my substitute commute that helps me transition back into home mode. These rituals don't need to be elaborate or time-consuming. The key here is consistency. When you repeat the same actions day after day, they become powerful signals to your brain. If you don't have a dog that you can walk at the end of the day, maybe there's a gym in your building that you can go down to and have a light 15 or 30-minute walk. Number 7, communicate boundaries clearly. This strategy has saved my sanity more times than I can count. When you work from home, the people you live with, partners, children, roommates, can unintentionally become your biggest distractions. Not because they don't respect your work or you, but because the lines are blurry. If you're physically present, it's natural for them to assume that you're available. The solution isn't to get annoyed when interruptions happen, it's to proactively set and communicate clear boundaries. In my house, we have a simple system. When my office door is closed, it means only interrupt for emergencies. When it's open, casual check-ins are welcome. If your space doesn't have a door, you can get creative. Maybe it's wearing headphones or having a small sign up, or even just a conversation at the start of each day about when you need focused time. The same principle applies to clients and colleagues. I found that when they're communicated clearly up front, most people respect boundaries. Number 8, manage your physical environment for focus. Your physical workspace affects your mental workspace more than you realize. I'm not saying you need a picture-perfect Instagram-worthy home office. What you need, though, is a space that supports the way your brain works best. For me, this means minimal visual clutter, good lighting, and comfortable seating. I found that also having houseplants in my workspace helps too. There's something about having a little bit of greenery by my side that helps keep me anchored. Sound is another important factor. Some people need complete silence to focus. Others work better with background noise. I fall into a little bit of both categories. Sometimes complete silence actually makes my mind wander more, and sometimes I'll use instrumental music or ambient coffee shop sounds to create an audio environment that helps me focus. Temperature matters too. If you're too hot or too cold, your brain will be distracted by your physical discomfort. I keep a sweater handy, and sometimes I have a small fan for different seasons. And don't underestimate the importance of ergonomics. When I first started working from home, I was hunched over my laptop on the couch. My productivity shot up when I finally got a proper desk set up with my monitor at eye level and a chair that supported good posture. These physical elements might seem superficial compared to the mental aspects of productivity, but they create the foundation that allows those mental strategies to work. Number 9, build in accountability. When you work from home, especially as a freelancer, you don't have a boss looking over your shoulder or colleagues counting on you to complete your part of a project. That freedom is wonderful, but it can also make it easier to procrastinate. Creating external accountability can be incredibly powerful. There are lots of ways that you can do this, but here are a few. First, you can consider finding an accountability partner. That could be a friend or another professional that works from home. My accountability partner and I text each other our top 3 priorities every week, and then we report back at the end of the week. It's simple, but effective because I know that someone's expecting me to follow through. Another approach is to use public accountability, and I've done this before by sharing some of my goals on social media. Once you've stated an intention publicly, you're more likely to stick to it. For bigger projects, I break them down into milestones and schedule check-ins with myself. I actually put these in my calendar as meetings. These can be things like review podcast outline progress or edit the homepage of so-and-so's website. Treating these check-ins as non-negotiable appointments helps me stay on track. I've also found that using time tracking apps provides a form of accountability. Seeing the actual hours that I spent on different tasks often reveals patterns that I wouldn't otherwise notice, like understanding how long certain types of work take me. And just while I'm on the topic of time tracking apps, they can be wonderfully useful in identifying the times that you work the most productively. So you can use that to build your time blocking strategy. Number 10. Give yourself grace. My final strategy might be the most important one. Be kind to yourself when things don't go as planned. Even when all these systems are in place, there will be days when your productivity tanks. Maybe you didn't sleep well, or your kid woke up sick, or you're just having an off day mentally. It happens to us all. On those days, pushing harder rarely helps. Some days, the most productive thing that you can do is recognize when you need to take a step back, reset, and try again tomorrow. This isn't about making excuses or lowering your standards. It's about understanding that productivity isn't a constant state. It ebbs and flows. The goal isn't to be 100% productive 100% of the time. That is impossible. The goal is to create conditions that support your best work most of the time, and to have strategies for getting back on track when things go sideways. I keep a list of what I call low energy tasks. That's important work that doesn't require my full creative capacity. On tough days, I'll turn to this list rather than forcing myself to tackle complex projects. And sometimes the answer is to simply call it a day. Do something completely different to clear your head and come back fresh tomorrow. I've found that 30-minute walks, sometimes outside, sometimes on the treadmill, often does more for my productivity than an hour of forcing myself to stare at the screen. Remember what I said at the beginning of the episode. You have to follow your own path with self-compassion and with the confidence that you're doing the very best that you can with what you have. As I wrap up today's episode, I want to emphasize that productivity isn't about doing more, but more about doing what matters intentionally and with focus. The goal of all of these strategies isn't to turn you into a work machine. It's to help you do your best work efficiently so that you have more time and energy to focus on the rest of your life. The beauty of owning your own business and working for yourself or being your own boss is the freedom that it can offer. These strategies aren't about imposing rigid structures that stifle that freedom, but more about creating frameworks that support it. I'd love to hear which of these strategies resonates with you, or what other techniques you found helpful for staying productive while working from home. Drop me a message or a comment at postscript.ae on Instagram, or leave a comment on this episode page. Next week, to highlight the last episode of the season, I have something super exciting for you, but I won't spoil the surprise quite yet. Keep your eyes peeled for hints on Instagram. Thanks to you all for lending me your ear this week. If you found this episode helpful, please consider sharing it with a fellow businesswoman or leaving a review. It really does help the show reach more people. Until next time, please keep moving forward one messy step at a time. Bye, everyone.